Okay, this is chapter 1, 1.2. We're exploring the absolute value. Who knows what an absolute value is just off the top of their head? Should be familiar with this. Yeah, Luigi.
It's when whatever the answer is or whatever the value of the number is, it always turns out to be positive. So
Yeah, basically. So the absolute value of a negative number would be the positive equivalent to that number. So negative 3, the absolute value would be positive 3. What's the absolute value of positive 12, Gennaro?
Positive 12.
Yeah, positive 12. So it doesn't change positive numbers, it only changes negative numbers. Okay, so our goal is to discover the properties of the absolute value function. Explore the math. Lucas? Sorry, Luke. My bad.
exploring absolute value.
Just an average person's?
An average person's blood pressure is dependent on their age and gender. For example, the average systolic blood pressure, PN, for a 17-year-old girl is about 127 millimeters.
Mercury. Mercury. That's the
Yeah.
chemical symbol for mercury.
The average systolic blood pressure for a 17-year-old boy is about 134 millimeters mercury. Yeah. When doctors measure blood pressure, they compare the blood pressure to the average blood pressure for people in the same age and gender group. This comparison, PD, is calculated using the formula PD equals P subtract PN, where P is the blood pressure and P is the blood pressure reading and PN is the average reading for people in the same age and gender group.
Okay, so we see here there's a formula here, and I circled 134 because we're only dealing with, in this particular investigation, we're only dealing with 17-year-old boys. Okay, so that's why I'm circling 134. It's just giving an example that the girl blood pressure is lower. Can anyone tell me why they think doctors might use this formula to calculate blood pressure? Yeah, Lyndon. Okay, for athletes, yeah, but why absolute value formula? That's what we're really looking at, yeah.
Because it's impossible to have negative pressure inside the body.
Yeah, that's true, and they're also that's a very good point. And they're also only concerned, in particular, about the difference from the average. Okay, not necessarily if it's above or below, but they're concerned about the difference from the normal. Okay, so that's why they're using the absolute value. Where is P in the blood pressure reading, and PN is the average reading for people of the same age of the gender group. Okay, so we're finding our blood pressure by taking whatever value we got minus the average. Is there a difference between this formula and this formula? Alex, what do you think? Are these two formulas equivalent? This formula and this formula.
They're the same? Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, aren't they the same?
Why?
Because
They're different in the sense that I reversed these, right? The PN, and the PN was negative and now it's positive, and the P was positive and now it's negative. So they are different, but why are they the same? Jesse?
Those two lines mean that they only need the absolute value of it.
Exactly. And so just like if we had five minus 3, we're going to get the absolute value of 2. If we had 3 minus 5, we're going to get the absolute value of negative 2, which is 2. Okay? Does that start to make sense now? Oh, there is no difference there? Any questions? All right, so let's look at the investigation here. How do the blood pressure readings of a group of people be compared? Okay, Jim is a 17-year-old boy whose most recent blood pressure reading was 142 Hg. Calculate PD for Jim. So we just take this formula of PD and we're going to substitute his value, 142, minus the average, which is 134. So that's 8, absolute value of 8, which is 8. Okay, that's Jim's. And then Joe is 17-year-old boy, so because they're both boys, we're going to use that same value of 134, which comes from here. So the PD of Joe is negative, absolute value is 8. So see how we're getting the same value. So the doctor's concerned about their difference from the norm. Okay, so even though Joe is low and Jim is high, they still have a personal blood pressure of 8. Okay, C says compare the values of P minus PN and P minus PN. What were used to determine PD for each boy? What do you notice? All right, so we're comparing, this value would be 8, an absolute value of 8, and this would be the negative 8, an absolute value of negative 8. Okay, so we're noticing that they become the same after we use the absolute value. Finally, it says complete the following table by calculating the values of PD for the given blood pressure readings for 17-year-old boys. Okay, so these are all different 17-year-old boys. We're going to plug each one of these values in for P. Okay, so the first one would be 95 minus 134. And again, it's 134 because we're dealing with boys. Sure. All right, so this is 39. And you guys can just do the next one, and I'm going to help you out. 1 sec.
Sir, 136, take away 135 for Joe.
No, 126. Okay, and I'm gonna, there's your answers if you want to copy them in quick. Okay. Okay, you'll be able to get that online tonight as well if you missed it. Okay, I just gotta get the next page. Give me a second here.
Projector belongs to this room, right?
Yeah, it does.